10 minutes of non-stop news and no-wait weather. 10 at 10 on KBTX News 3 starts now.
Dangerous toxins are found in Somerville school attics. Good evening, I'm Joe Brown.
And I'm Crystal Galney. School officials have said only that their schools appear safe. But after a week of silence, a new report compares toxins in Somerville schools to post 9/11 World Trade Center.
News 3's Kristen Ross has the story.
Through advice from council, we will not be fielding any questions today.
I think the people want to find out what's going on.
Many questions were left unanswered by the Somerville School District after the results came back from an independent toxins study. Now researchers with the School of Rural Public Health want to clear up any confusion about their findings.
Where we looked at the floor dust samples, the custodial staff does a good job and keeps those clean, and we see relatively low levels. When we went up into the attic or when we went behind the stage where people don't usually go, we saw higher levels.
News 3 obtained a copy of the report through an open records request. In it, researchers compared the toxins found in the schools to those found near the World Trade Center. The report states that the attic above the elementary school's cafeteria contained the highest concentrations of chromium and copper, which well exceed the maximum concentrations seen at the World Trade Center. Donnelly says many of the chemicals detected in the dust are considered to be known carcinogens.
The fact that we saw those, they're in a location where they could get into the classroom. They certainly could get into the ductwork and into the breathing air for the children.
So do you think the schools are safe right now?
I think the schools are safe for March, April, and May. I think there is a need to do some type of remediation in the attic and in the ductwork to reduce the potential for future exposure.
Dr. Donnelly showed us just how they took samples from the elementary school, junior high, and behavior management center. The high school, however, was not tested because its floors had just been waxed.
I think the other issue that needs to be addressed is that if we are seeing these chemicals in the school, they are likely also to be in yards and in houses.
However, according to the researchers, their study does not provide sufficient information to estimate long-term risks for students or staff exposed to those chemicals. Kristen Ross, News 3.
After initially agreeing to be interviewed about the study, Somerville's superintendent refused to comment today. The school conducted the study after Somerville residents sued a railroad tie plant for allegedly emitting harmful toxins.
Now, Jared Woodfill is the attorney representing many of the residents who have pending litigation against the plant. He joins us now on the phone live. First of all, Mr. Woodfill, what do you make of A&M's findings?
Well, you know, it's really consistent with what we found. We went up into the attics of a large number of homes in Somerville and looked for traces of chemicals. We looked for PAHs, we looked for dioxins, we looked for chromium and arsenic, and those are the chemicals we found in very high concentration. So what they found at A&M is very consistent with what our experts found.
You say it's consistent, but how do these results differ from those of your own toxicologist?
Well, in both cases, the results were high. I think what you need to look at is the difference between what's found in the attic versus what's actually found on the floor, because they're really, you're looking at two different things. When you go up in the attic, what you're finding is evidence of chronic or long-term exposure. It's really a laboratory for contamination that's been that's come and been deposited through the air through many years. When you go and you look at a floor, it's not quite as telling because the floor is usually cleaned on a weekly or a daily basis, so you're not getting a full representation of what's actually been put in the air over a long period of time. And really the biggest concern is that chronic or long-term exposure.
Mr. Woodfill, final question. Do you think these results will validate what you're trying to say in the future lawsuits?
Absolutely. I think they're exactly consistent with what we found, and I think it's time that the city of Somerville deal with the problem.
All right, Jared Woodfill, we thank you for joining us tonight.